Hello and welcome back to Catchy Minds. In the last video, we talked about learning in psychology. Now, when we talk about the learning and theory, we need to understand classical conditioning and unconditioning because these are the certain theories which we have learned to understand learning better. Now, when I talk about classical conditioning, it is nothing but a concept where a stimulus, a person, or a god, whoever is the object, is associated with certain response. So, Ivan Pavlov, who was a very famous psychologist, he did an experiment on God to make her understand how we learn our behavior. That means whatever we are doing, however we are behaving, is nothing but it is being conditioned in a way or we have learned it in that way to behave. Now, how to understand it better? We'll understand it with the classical conditioning basics. When I talk about this, first we need to understand that classical conditioning involves learning through association, which means I know I need to pass the exam, so I need to study from the books, where I am a stimulus who is learning and repeatedly studying from the book, which is an unconditional stimulus. The book is an unconditional stimulus to become to pass my exam, which is a conditioned stimulus. So this leads to the response, which is learned through the reaction, how I have done it. To understand it better, we will use certain short forms in further. Unconditional stimulus is US, conditional stimulus is CS, unconditional response, where book is not responding, book is not talking to me, but I am responding to it. And conditional response is my exam, where I will be responding how I have learned. Ivan Pavlov experiment. So Ivan Pavlov, what he did, he had a sound bell. He experimented with a god. Okay, so bell was god was his stimulus. Bell was also his response, and food was unconditional stimulus. Now, over a time, he began to salivate to make sure the god starts salivating when the bell used to ring. So he used to ring the bell, give the food to the god, and God started to demonstrate it as an associative learning. One certain day, he just rang the bell and did not give the food, but still God was salivating. That means he learned the behavior that if the bell rings, I'll get the food. Now, when I talk about stimulus and response types, I need to understand that certain times it triggers my unconditional response, which is the bell and my mind. Now, bell rang and my mind was started to learn that I'll get a food, which is an associative work. Now, if I've understood this, I need to understand how to apply and imply this in my real life. Not every time we are going to bring a god and use it, right? First, you need to understand that how human behavior works. Nervous system. Numerous human behaviors are based on emotional response and habit. Oh, they hurted me. I don't want to go there again. Oh, I know. I tend to sleep by 10 p.m. That's my habit. So sometimes your reaction is a playful behavior. Sometimes it's consciously and sometimes you do it unconsciously. Now, when I talk about the therapeutic use, where can I use this in my life? We actually feel a relaxation. Sometimes we need to demonstrate how our mental health is. We need to make relax and change certain learnings with the use of it. Now, when I talk about certain criticisms, we cannot always have complex behavior. Sometimes we have learned something, but the situation is not what we want to behave with. And that is the time when this associative learning really does not work. To conclude it, we need to understand that if classical conditioning remains with a behavioral psychology, we need to make sure that we need to analyze, limitate our cognitive factors, and provide a valuable insight before we learn something. And if not, we need to go with the psychological treatment. Thank you for understanding. Keep learning, keep growing. Bye.